Afghans protest Taliban, an emerging challenge to their rule. Taliban fighters display their flag on patrol in Kabul, Afghanistan. The Taliban celebrated Afghanistan's Independence Day on Thursday by declaring they beat the United States, but challenges to their rule, ranging from running a country severely short on cash and bureaucrats to potentially facing an armed opposition, began to emerge. Kabul, Afghanistan. Afghan protesters defied the Taliban for a second day Thursday, waving their national flag in scattered demonstrations, and the fighters again responded violently as they faced down growing challenges to their rule. A UN official warned of dire food shortages, and experts said the country was severely in need of cash, while noting that the Taliban are unlikely to enjoy the generous international aid that the civilian government they dethroned. In light of these challenges, the Taliban have moved quickly to suppress and dissent, despite their promises that they have become more moderate since they last ruled Afghanistan with draconian laws. Many fear they will succeed in erasing 2 decades of efforts to expand women's and human rights and remake the country. On Thursday, a procession of cars and people near Kabul's airport carried long black, red, and green banners in honor of the Afghan flag, a banner that is becoming a symbol of defiance. At another protest in Nangarhar province, video posted online showed a bleeding demonstrator with a gunshot on onlookers tried to carry him away. In Khost province, Taliban authorities instituted a 24-hour curfew Thursday after violently breaking up another protest, according to information obtained by journalists monitoring from abroad. The authorities did not immediately acknowledge the demonstration of the curfew. Protesters also took the streets in Kunar province, according to witnesses and social media videos that lined up with reporting by the Associated Press. The demonstrations, which come as Afghans celebrated Independence Day and some commemorated the Shlait Ashura festival, were a remarkable show of defiance after the Taliban fighters violently dispersed a protest Wednesday at the rally in the eastern city of Jalalabad. Demonstrations lowered the Taliban's flag and replaced it with Afghanistan tricolor. At least one person was killed. Meanwhile, opposition figures gathering in the last area of the country not under Taliban rule talked of launching an armed resistance under the banner of the Northern Alliance, which allied with the US during the 2001 invasion. It was not clear how serious a threat they posed, given that Taliban fighters overran nearly the entire country in a matter of days with little resistance from Afghan forces. The Taliban so far have offered no specifics on how they will lead, other than to say they will be guided by Sharia or Islamic law. They are in talks with senior officials of previous Afghan governments, but they face an increasingly precarious situation. A humanitarian crisis of incredible proportions and unfolding before our eyes, warned Mary Ellen McGrady, the head of the UN's World Food Programme in Afghanistan. Beyond the difficulties of bringing in food to the landlocked nation dependent on imports, she said the drought has seen over 40% of the country's crop lost. Many who fled the Taliban at once now live in parks and open spaces in Kabul. This is really Afghanistan's hour of greatest need, and we urge the international community to stand by the Afghan people at this time, she said. Hafiz Ahmad, a shopkeeper in Kabul, said some food has flowed into the capital, but prices have gone up. He hesitated to pass those costs on to his customers, but said he had to. It is better to have it, he said. If there were nothing, then that would be even worse. Two of Afghanistan's key border crossings with Pakistan are now open for trade. However, traders still fear insecurity on the roads and confusion over customs duties that could push them to price their goods higher. Amid that uncertainty and concerns that the Taliban will reimpose a brutal rule, which included largely confining women to their homes and holding public executions, many Afghans are trying to flee the country. At Kabul's international airport, military evacuation flights continued, but access to the airport remained difficult. On Thursday, Taliban fighters fired into the air to try to control the crowds gathered at the airport's blast walls. After a chaotic start that drove people rushed the runway and clinged to a plane taking off, the U.S. military is ramping up evacuations and now has enough aircraft to get 5,000 to 9,000 people out a day. Army Mark Gang Hack Taylor said Thursday. Overnight, President Joe Biden said that he was committed to keeping U.S. troops in Afghanistan until every American is evacuated, even if that means maintaining a military presence there beyond his August 31 deadline for withdrawal. The Taliban have also asked people to return to work, but most government officials remain in hiding or are themselves attempting to flee. Taliban and counter-Afghan cities remain in their absence. Izanullah, one of thousands of young Taliban fighters from the countryside who rode into Afghanistan's capital over the weekend, had never seen anything like it. The paved streets of Kabul were lined with towering apartment blocks, glass office buildings, and shopping malls.